Well, good morning, everyone. Hope everybody is having a great day. I apologize about the lateness. I was trying to figure out why in the world we only had three out of the five streams live. So still trying to figure that out. But we're going to keep on. We're just going to start rolling. We got a lot to cover today. I really appreciate everybody's um, taking their time out of their day to learn a little bit. We all know that that's a very important thing to happen. Is we have to keep learning as a technician. If we don't keep learning, we basically are just wasting away. So, excuse me. Today we're gonna deal with the KM81 BAJ Hoshizaki ice machine. Okay, one thing that I really like about this ice machine is their stainless steel cutting. Their stainless steel. What am I? They're a half moon, standing the freezing. So whenever you have that, it's really nice. So one of the things I wanted to stop and take a quick second to talk about is Encompass University. If you're not aware, the Encompass University website, you can go to Encompass Training. If you pull up Encompass, you can go to Encompass Training. That will take in and make sure that you have everything that you need on all the classes that we're going to have coming up. And you can also go in and look at all the ones that we have started. I mean, that like today's class will be available to everybody this afternoon. Maybe first thing in the morning. Sometimes they get it. It takes them a day to get it in. But that's a great thing for you. You may want to refer back to some of the things that we covered today. Once again, this costs you nothing. It is one of the benefits of being a Encompass parts person. If you don't have the Encompass website, just go out and type in Encompass and try typing in Encompass University. But you can go out to the Encompass website, encompass.com, and you can pull it up that way. If you have any other questions, you can put them in the chat session. I will go ahead and take care of that. And if you've got any right now, we'll deal with those right now. Hey, Justin. Once again, another Williams. So let's just go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's talk about first. This is, like I said, this is a KM18 BAJ. Hang on just 1 second, please. Okay, sorry about that. I had something come up that I had to take care of. So this is 115 volt, 60 amp, of course. It pulls about 3.5. It goes 5 minutes in the freeze at about 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Minimum circuit amperage. You have to have at least a 15 amp circuit. Which is down from a lot of the other ice machines that are out there. Approximate ice per cycle, you basically get about 1.5 pounds per drop. In other words, 80 cubes. Okay. The storage capacity is 38 pounds. Okay, so once I turn this ice machine on, it will stop producing ice at about 38 pounds. Okay, it has a mechanical bin control. It doesn't have a laser. Um, it uses just a regular bin control. It had this is one of the older ones, and it is 134A. I will tell you that those are going to change, and those are going to be R600. Okay, so approximate ice production per 24 hours is somewhere around 78. Okay, so approximate electrical consumption is 210. Approximate water consumption per 24 hours is about 22 gallons. Freezing cycle time 26 minutes. Harvest cycle time is 2.1 minutes. Head pressure is 102, and suction pressure is 23. Okay, so we're going to keep on moving along. This is how you remove the panels. You're going to have to remove the panels if you're going to have this top panel. You're going to have to remove to be able to get to the ice machine itself. So, of course, if something happens, you're going to have to pull this unit out. This does come with legs. So you may find it either that it has legs on it, or that it may not even have legs. It may be shoved up under a bar. And if it's shoved up under a bar, a lot of the times they're trying to keep it as low as they can. The one thing you have to be careful of if you don't have legs on it, you have to have the proper air circulation. If you don't have the proper air circulation, this will hinder your ice production. So just make sure that you have the proper ventilation so that it can actually circulate all the air, and you can get it to come up. So if you notice, there's the top panel as we had talked about. You see that there is a top panel tab that fits into. So whenever you go and you remove that top panel, you have to pick it up from the back and move it out. Okay, that's the only way that you disengage those tabs. Okay, if we once again, there's the louver tab. It's shown and it's broken out. So make sure that you've got that snapped in properly. Not really snapped in. It pulls just like the opposite of the top panel. You pull it out, and then you can get it off. There's the control switch. Then you'll notice that there's the condenser right behind the panel. Okay, this is the rear cover. So if I'm going to have to go in and replace the condenser fan motor, I'm going to have to pull this rear cover off. You're going to have to. You can also get to the back of the. You can also get to the pump and the motor assembly down there on the bottom, at the top up there. You notice that there's 6 screws around the top. That's how you have to get to the pump. Okay. Do not place more than 33 pounds on the top panel. If this is like, if you go in and it's in a bar, I'll tell you that they like to use this as a shelf. You can't. It's not made to be a shelf. Whenever you get in, most of the time you come in. One of the things that people love to put on this is those little stacks that have your olives, lemons, your limes, your whatever other little your cherries, all fit in a little container. They love to put those on top of them. The problem is they don't ever clean those, and those are getting nasty and nasty fast. Always discourage people using this as a shelf because it's not a shelf. Okay, so at most you can place under 33 pounds on that top panel. Okay, do not use the frame, and I've yet to figure out what Hoshizaki means by do not use the frame to life the appliance. I think it's supposed to be lift and not life. So you're supposed to pick this up from the bottom, which is if you have legs, that's fine. The problem is, like I said, most of these are under a bar, so you're going to have to pull it out a little bit to be able to get it able to lift it. Okay, I'm going to handle the appliance carefully to avoid damaging the exterior. Really, the only thing that you're going to damage is the panels themselves. You can damage the top panel. I've seen them creased. The guys that are installing them, a lot of times, they just push them in there and they don't care. So you may have damaged panels. Okay. Normal operating water temperature. We go through this every single one of them. It's just like every other ice maker that's out there. Doesn't matter if it's Manitowoc. It doesn't matter if it's Scotsman. Doesn't matter if it's Hoshizaki, maybe Ross Temp. It doesn't really matter. They all want somewhere between 45 and 90 degree Fahrenheit water. Okay. I have seen water coming in that is higher than 90 degrees coming in. Down in Miami is really, they've got these out in the bar and it's, 110 degrees outside. The incoming water temperature is above 90 or right around 90. So you have to, what happens if I have, let's say I've got 95 degree water coming in. Okay. What happens is it slows down the production of ice. So instead of making, 45 pounds of ice in a day, it knocks it down to 30 pounds if I have that, because it doesn't cycle as much. Okay. Water pressure has to be 10 psi. Okay. And a maximum of 113. I had a friend of mine call me. Oh, I think it was last Friday. He goes, dude, you got to know this. I am out at this customer's house. It was a bar. They had turned up the water pressure so high that he said the ice machine filled in about 4 seconds. Their dishwasher filled so fast also. So if I'm using a greater PSI as over 113, you know what happens? The water valve may not shut off all the way. It may drip. So what happens with that? If I've got a drippy water valve going into the ice machine, it never gets as cold as it should. Okay. So I've always got to be careful. How do you fix this? You can fix this by going to Encompass, tell them that you need a valve to reduce the water pressure. Boom, and they'll ship it out to you. You can do that. Okay. To prevent damage to the appliance, do not operate the appliance when the water supply is turned off or if the pressure is below 10 psi. Okay. Do not run the appliance until the proper water pressure is reached. That goes without saying. Any external filters, strainers, or softeners may be required depending on the water quality. Um, I worked for the school system in Florida for about almost a year, and we had on all of our ice machines we had water filters and softeners and they were external. So that was just something that I had to go and you had to go and check every about. I had them check. I had them written on the cylinder itself. So you want to, if you go out, you've got to know that if I've got an external filter, I need to know when was the last time that it was installed. Some of the stuff that we had was really kind of so bad that we had to change our water filters on several places in the school system that we had to replace it every 6 months. So you need to know that. You need to kind of be aware of your surroundings. You got to know if you're on well water or if you're on water from the city or the county. That's all things that you need to know whenever you get there. So that's one of the questions that you need to be asking. Okay. So here is the way that this unit is designed for the drain. Okay. If you notice, there is a stand pipe right there. Okay. Also in that is a P trap. It's just like a trap in the sink. Okay. It prevents it from backing up. Okay. So it kind of helps me so that I don't have anything that the ice maker drain, it doesn't back up into the ice maker. Okay. The other one is there's a drain valve. Okay. This drain valve comes with this ice maker. So that needs to be on there. Shut off valve, you need to have a shut off valve. Now you have to remember this is the water supply. Okay. So I've got a shut off valve, an external shut off valve that is right there so that I can turn it on and off. One of the problems that I had whenever I was working for the school system is they had a shut off, but the problem was the shut off was not always right next to the unit. So you may end up having to go and chase it down, but the customer should know where that shut off is. You should be able to ask the customer, where is your shut off? And they should be able to tell you that. Okay. Then if you look on the left side at the very far, that's where your power comes in. So you notice that right here they want a 2-inch gap. It needs an air gap. It doesn't need to be poked down into the hole. What will happen is if you don't have this, you have a chance of it trying to back up into the PVC. Okay, I'm gonna stop right there, right quick. I'm gonna ask, does anybody have any questions so far? This is basically just getting in to make sure that you know the things that you need to have before we get into the main meat and potatoes. Okay. I don't see anybody with a question, so we're going to move along. Okay. So if I open this door for the bin, I can look and I can see all of this. Okay. I see the tube guide. I'm sorry, the cube guide. Spit it. If I could only talk. I can see the cube guide. Okay. I can see the water tank. I can see the silicone hose that goes down for your drain. I can see the overflow pipe. Okay. And then I've got my ice storage bin. So this is all what you can see from the inside. Okay. The one thing I can tell you about that you have got to do is you have to have a maintenance schedule. We're going to have a class later on If I'm doing ice machines, this is something very easy because ice machines require at least every 6 months, should be every month. Um, there are things that have got to be done daily. Okay. Like I've got to clean my scoop. Okay. Using a neutral cleaner, then I've got to rinse thoroughly. Not only do I have to rinse it thoroughly, I have to sanitize it. Anything that goes into an ice maker has got to be sanitized. Okay. Bi-weekly, I want to check my air filters. Okay. If I need to change my air filter, it's pretty simple. And these are easy. All you do is you wash with warm water, and then you can use a neutralizer cleaner if it's dirty. So these you can usually take and if they've got a sink, you can pull the filter off and you can clean it in the sink. Okay. External water filters monthly. You got to check the proper pressure and change if it's bad. A lot of these, whenever I worked for the school system, there's basically two types of filters. There's one that you can't see through, and it's silver. Okay. And the only way that I knew if it was good was excuse me, was just to write down. I wrote down every day that I changed it. I wrote the date down. Okay. The water filters that you can actually see the filter itself, those are great. That's where we had started moving whenever I left, was going and changing all of the external water filters so that we could see them, so that we knew when to change them. Because like I said, if you have a school system and you've got we had about 30 schools in the county. So those 30 schools, we had to make sure that they got ice when they needed it, because there's nothing worse than a cranky school child that can't get his ice. Okay, so that is done monthly. Okay, ice maker exterior. It doesn't need to be done monthly. It needs to be done daily. I know that it says monthly, but I'm telling you, if you don't have and press upon this customer that they need to wipe this ice maker down every day, okay, with a clean, soft cloth, damp cloth containing a neutralized cleaner, and wipe off any oil or dirt buildup. Clean any chlorine staining, rust colored spots using a non-abrasive cleaner. Okay, you have got to do this daily. Whenever I was talking to you about the bar that I was talking about, where they kept the fruit tray is what I call it, on the bar, it's on top of the ice machine like that there. That has to be done daily. That the syrup, a perfect example is the cherries. Whenever they poured the cherries in, they usually just pour it right straight into the container, and you get a mess. So they need to be doing that daily. Okay. Monthly, I actually want the ice maker and the ice machine storage bin lamp. Monthly, I want to inspect the condenser, because a lot of the ice machines, excuse me, a lot of the ice machines are out there in the open, and they're out there to the elements. So you may end up with all kinds. Like I said, whenever I worked for the school system, you could get bags or something else in front and they didn't pay any attention. But whenever I went out there on something else, because I was actually the maintenance guy for the cooking equipment, the ice machines, any of the other machines that went down I was the maintenance guy for that. So yearly, I'm gonna take the ice maker and the ice storage bin liner. I'm gonna take it out and clean it and the parts that I can clean, and then I'm gonna sanitize it. Like I said, anytime that you remove it or you go into the ice machine, you have got to have sanitizer. You have got to sanitize it. Okay. My water supply inlet, I'm going to check that yearly. Close to the ice maker supply, the shutoff valve, and the drain system. Clean the water supply inlet screen. So it requires me to turn off the water and then clean the screen. Okay. My condenser, I used to say you needed at least every 3 months to check that condenser. My water hoses, I'm going to inspect them yearly. If you don't, there is a chance that a lot of these ice machines, they use a rubberized water line, a reinforced water line, and they have a tendency to start leaking. So you need to be careful and make sure that you're checking those and have a yearly inspection for those. Okay. So how do I clean a Hoshizaki ice machine? Most every ice machine basically you got a standard cleaner. The difference with the Hoshizaki is how much I use. Okay. So on this, I'm going to dilute 5 ounces of ice machine cleaner, which is the Scalaway, with 1 gallon of water. I'm going to remove the air filter. I'm going to remove all the ice from the evaporator. So I'm going to put it into a harvest and the ice storage bin. I'm going to pull all of that out. If I don't pull all of that out and I start using this Scalaway, I have to flush every single bit of the ice. You don't want to do that. Okay. So once I do that, I'm going to switch the control to off, move it back to the ice position. After 3 minutes, the harvest cycle starts and the cubes are removed from the evaporator. I'm going to move the control switch to the off position after I have after the evaporator is clean. I'm going to open the door. I'm going to disconnect the silicone drain hose to drain all the water. I'm going to it says see figure 7. I'm going to connect the silicone hose back and into the correct position after all the water has drained. I'm going to pour the cleaning solution into the water tank, move the control to the wash position, and I'm going to close the door. After 30 minutes, move the control to the off position. Okay. This right here is exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. And this is our KM81. Okay. There, I got it to work. I'm going to disconnect the silicone drain hose to the water tank. Okay, I'm going to reconnect the silicone hose back in its correct position after I've drained all the water out. I'm going to move the control to the ice position to fill the water tank with water. After 3 minutes, I'm going to move the control switch to the wash position. After 5 minutes, I'm going to turn it back to the off position. Okay. Disconnect the silicone hose to drain the water. Reconnect the silicone hose back in its correct position after all the water has drained. I'm going to repeat steps 8 through 11 3 more times to rinse everything thoroughly. We're going to disconnect the silicone hose and the overflow pipe. Next, remove the water tank by pressing down on the snaps on the brackets. Okay. Pulling the tank forwards towards you. Pressing it down, being careful to avoid breakage when handling the parts. it is fairly easy to crack that tank. Okay, and then you have to go and find either find something that you can put on it until you can get back, because people have got to have their ice here in the U.S. Okay, I'm gonna pull the cube guides. Excuse me. Pardon. I'm going to pull the cube guides. I'm going to upward and remove them from the water tank, and then snap them back in place whenever I get done. Okay, here it is right here. Here's my water tank. This is where I'm telling you got to be careful. If you're not careful, you can crack it. If you notice there, it's a U right here. Okay. So the bin control switch is accessible by removing the water tank. Pull the switch toward you for easy maintenance. This is the front view with the door open and the water tank removed. Okay, so our bin control switch, it shows, you're seeing it right there. Okay, one thing that I like about this unit is that it has a field replaceable pump and motor. Okay, I can tear this down and rebuild it. I don't have to. You can order the pump and the motor. It's not cheap. You can buy the parts to replace them there in the field. Okay. Your ice drop zone. One of the things that you have to be careful of with a Hoshizaki is your ice drop zone. It's smaller. Has a smaller ice drop zone than a lot of the other manufacturers. A lot of the other manufacturers, it's pretty much a huge ice drop zone, but this one is a smaller ice drop zone. Okay, the stainless steel cube construction, you can see it right here. I told you this is what I like. I really like this on the unit. If one of the things that I like about it is that a lot of them use it's a copper plate, and after years and years of use, you end up with having to replace it, either the whole unit or going in in R600 you'll have to use the lock ring. Because you're going to have to take out this stainless steel plate. Okay, here's many of the things that Hoshizaki touts: removable panels, separate compartments, an insulated evaporator section, rebuildable pump assembly, small ice drop zone. Okay, if you want to go out and look at everything that we're going to talk about, there is a program out there on YouTube, and this is where you need to go. So I'm going to give you just a minute right here to write this down, and this will take you directly to the video that I have fashioned the class on. Okay, so let's talk about the sequence of operation. Okay, it has a 1 minute fill cycle. 60 seconds later, the initial harvest begins. I go through 3 to 4 minutes of that, and then the freeze cycle will begin again. After about 30 minutes into the freeze cycle, the pump out cycle begins. 10 to 20 seconds after that, the normal harvest begins. This cycle repeats until the bin control opens to stop the ice production. Okay. This is another video. I'm going to once again give you a minute here to write all this down. Okay. Like once again, you can always go back and you can look at this if you want to, if you need to review back and you want the webs for those. Okay. So here's the board itself. You're gonna need to know what this is. You can look right here. If you look at the very top, there are relay LEDs. Okay, so at the very, you can see the very top two on the left shows you the LED 5 and LED 6. Then you have LED 8 that's on down. You've got the power OK LED, which is on the right, which is on the far left of right there. And it shows the power LED. Okay. I've got my LED 8. These all will come into play because this is how you know what's the problem, what problem you have with this unit. Okay. So you go through and you find all of these. Then I have, I've got LD9, LED4, LED7. I have an alarm buzzer, got an output test button, and I got an alarm reset button. Now, if you look at the very bottom, you can see all of these dip switches. We're going to talk about those dip switches a little bit later. If you look right here on the very top on the right side, you've got your K3 connector. That's where you're going to be able to take some voltage readings there. Plus, we have our K6 connector and our K1 connector. I will tell you that if you're going to use, if you're going to try to use your meter and you need to get into your meter and you want to use a get in like this is 1 meter lead. Okay, here is my there we go. So what I can do is I can put this meter lead, okay, I can put this in, and if you look, this is a very small that I can insert this into so that I can get a good reading. I will tell you that I'm not trying to sell you anything, but you need one of these so that you can get in to check those. Okay, there are all kinds of different. You can do this. One of the clamps. Okay, you really need it to you really need to have that so that you can check your voltages properly. Okay, I'm going to move on. These are it shows right here. That we have the number 1 is the float switch. Number 2 is open. Number 4 is the bend control. Number 6 is a thermistor. And then number 9, pin number 8 and 9 are open. So we're going to, the K4 connector is open. So you don't have one. All right. So here's what I'm talking about, okay? Our LED lights and audible alarm safeties, okay? Beep occurs when red CB power OK light turns on, when the control switch is moved to the ice position. Green LED lights 4 through 8 turn on and sequence from the initial startup as listed in the table below. In the order of the green LEDs, from the outer edge of the control board is 5, 6, 8, 9, 4, and 7. Okay, you're going to need to know that. Okay, so if I get 1 beep, I have a high evaporator temperature. If I get 2 beeps, the harvest backup timer. okay, is greater than 20 minutes for 2 cycles. So it tells me right there that I need to check the thermistor. Okay, if I get 3 beeps, the freeze cycle timer. The freeze cycle timer setting for 2 below is below what it should be for 2 cycles in a row. So I'm going to check the FS stuck open, then my water valve leaking. If I've got a leaky water valve, and then my PM is not pumping, my low charge, or an insufficient compressor. To reset safeties, press the alarm reset. The button will with the power supply on. One of the other things, if I get 6, that means that I have low voltage. The red LED light turns off if voltage protection fluctuates. If I get 7 beeps, that tells me that I have a high voltage instead of low voltage. Okay, so here is the legend. Okay, so 1 minute fill cycle light LED, which WV is water valve. Okay, then I have a harvest cycle. I have 5, 6, and 8, which is the compressor. Excuse me. The FM is the fan motor. The HG is the hot gas valve, and then the WV, of course, is the water inlet valve. Okay, so that's my LEDs. That's going to cycle 20 that those lines are on. So on the harvest cycle, 2 to 20 minutes. Okay. The freeze cycle is 5 minutes. Freezing the freeze timer setting. Okay. So what's going to be on are my 5 and 7 LEDs, which is the compressor, the fan motor, and the pump motor. Then my pump out cycle, I've got 5, 6, 4, and 7, which of course is my compressor. Then I have my hot gas valve, and my PM is the pump motor, and then the DV is the drain valve that is open during the hot gas. During the pump out cycle. Okay. Dip switches are set from the factory. So don't be messing with those unless you have a failure. And most of these are on off. Okay. Dip switches are set at the factory. Failure to maintain factory settings may adversely affect performance and warranty coverage. Okay. If you have any questions about that, contact your Hoshizaki Service Center. All right. So my default dip switches, okay, on the KM81BAJ which is the one that we're on. Dip switch number 1 is off. Dip switch number 2 is off. Dip switch 3 is on. Dip switch 4 is off. Dip switch 5 is on. Dip switch 6 is on. Dip switch 7 is on. Dip switch 8 is on, dip switch 9 is off, and dip switch 10 is on. Okay. Then there's that's the S1 dip switches. The S2 dip switches is the one that I told you cannot, doesn't matter what model it is, you cannot adjust it. Okay. Do not open it. If you do this, you will basically void the warranty. Okay. Here's the question. Here's the thing. Okay. So dip switches are the freeze timer 9 and 10. The harvest pump out timer shows you right there. Then you go on down. Then we got our pump out frequency, which is 5 and 6, pump out timer, which is 3 and 4, and then my harvest time is 1 and 2. Okay. Once again, we do not adjust dip switch S2, any of the S2 dip switches. Okay. These are must be left in the factory default, or the appliance will not operate properly. And if somebody is monkeyed with those, you've got to know that how these are, how these are located, where those dip switches are turned on. But you just make a quick check to make sure somebody hasn't been mucking around with it, because you will find that there are a whole lot of people that will get in there and try to monkey around with it. Okay. Harvest time. Okay. Dip switch S1 on the S1 connector. Dip switches 1 and 2. Okay. The harvest time starts counting when the thermistor reaches 48 degrees at the evaporator outlet. The control board reads 3.9 kiloohms from the thermistor. The harvest timer is factory set, and it's generally no adjustment is required. However, a setting longer from the factory may be advised in cases where the drain provided at the harvest needs to be prolonged for an extra cleaning. Notice that the pump out timer, S1 dip switch 3 and 4, okay, acts in place of the harvest timer during cycles with the pump out. For details, see the pump out timer dip switch 3 and 4 on the S1 connector. Okay. Note all models with a pump out cycle. The harvest timer is only relevant during the initial harvest cycle, since the pump out occurs every cycle thereafter. So my dip switch settings, okay, on the S1, number 1 is set for off. Number 2 is set for off. That's 30 seconds. If I turn on the number 1 and turn off the number 2, that gives me 90 seconds. If I turn off the number 1 and turn on the number 2, that gives me 120 seconds. If I turn on the number 1 and I turn on the number 2, that gives me 180 seconds. Okay, that's the harvest. So if I am going in and I'm not releasing enough ice during that time, I can adjust the dip switch so that I get a longer time. Okay, our pump out and harvest time. So when the pump out is called for, the pump motor stops for 2 seconds. These are dip switches 3 and 4. Then the pump motor and the drain valve energize. Water is removed from the bottom of the tank and is sent down the drain. The pump out drains the water tank for the time determined by the pump out timer. The pump out timer also acts in place of the harvest timer during cycles with a pump out. The pump out timer is factory set and generally doesn't need an adjustment. But just in case you do, you've got right here, if you've got dip switch number 1, 3, and number 4 are in the off position. Okay, I get 10 and 120. Okay, if my dip switch 3 and 4, dip switch 3 is turned on, dip switch 4 is turned off, all it does is gives me 20 seconds and then 160 seconds. So this is what we're talking about whenever the pump and drain motor are energized. Okay, so and then if I turn off number 3, turn on number 4, I get 120, and instead of 160, I get 100. I'm sorry. Instead of 160, I got 120. Okay. If I turn both of them on, I get the max, and that's 20, and then 180. T1 is the time to drain the water tank, and T2 is the harvest time on the pump out. Like I said, you're probably going to need this information. So if you don't have the manual, you can always refer back to this program, and it will be available on I can't even talk now. It will be available on Encompass University. Okay. So my pump out frequency control, which is once again, this is the S1. This is dip switches 5 and 6. The pump out frequency control is factory set to the drain, the water tank every 10 cycles. Generally, no adjustment is required. However, where water quality is bad and the ice maker needs a pump out more often, the pump frequency can be adjusted. Okay, the pump out frequency control can be set to have a pump out occur every cycle or every 10 cycles. So I can go anywhere between 1 and 10. Okay, the pump out is dependent on the S1 dip switch 5 and 6. The table is, if they're both turned off, it's every cycle. Okay, if I have the number five turned on and the number 6 is off, I get every 2 cycles. If I got the number 5 off and the number 6 on, I get every 5 cycles. Whenever you get there, it should be in the on position, and that's every 10 cycles. Whenever it comes from the factory, that's the way it's set. Okay. So my harvest pump duration time, okay, the harvest pump timer allows the water valve to close and the water pump to recirculate the water in the tank during the final part of the harvest. The water valve is open during the harvest for a maximum of 6 minutes, or the length of harvest minus 0, 10, 30, or 50 seconds. And that's determined by the pump out harvest pump time. Okay, so right here it shows you where if I got 0, that's both in the off position. If I've got 10 seconds, I got number 7 in the on, number 8 in the off. If I've got, that gives me 10 seconds. If I've got the number 7 in the off and the number 8 in the on, that gives me 30 seconds. If I've got them both on, that gives me 50 seconds. Okay. So it says at the very top that I didn't go through and mention the factory has it set for the proper operation. Do not adjust. Adjustment outside of the factory default settings may result in damage to the appliance. Okay, this is the freeze time. This is dip switch 9 and 10. So the freeze timer adjust to proper specification, or the ice maker may not operate. So you need to know this is the freeze time determines the maximum allowed ice freeze time to prevent possible freeze up issues. Upon determination of the freeze cycle, the timer control board initiates the harvest cycle or the pump out cycle. After 2 consecutive freeze timer terminations, the control board shuts down the ice maker. In that case, you need to see H3 low ice production for your possible solutions. The freeze timer is factory set and no adjustment is necessary. They want you to call tech support before you go and start adjusting the switches. So if I've got them both in the off, I've got 60 minutes. If I've got the number 9 in the off and number 8 in the on, I've got 50 minutes. If I've got the number 9 in the on and number 8 in the off, I get 70 minutes. If I got them both on, you got 100 minutes. But you need to call them just so that they can give you the correct time. Okay. Pump out drain selector, which is dip switch 1. The pump out drain selector setting determines whether the pump motor energizes or stays on or stays off. after a 2-second delay, the beginning of the pump out cycle or the shutdown. Regardless, the pump out drain selector, the drain valve energizes for 2-second delay at the beginning of the pump out cycle or the shutdown. When the pump out drain selector is set to pump out, the drain motor takes the water from the tank, forces it through the drain valve and down the drain. When the pump out drain selector is set to drain, water drains by gravity through the drain valve. So if I've got the number one turned off, it's set for drain. If I've got it turned on, I've got it set for pump out. Okay. So our harvest promotion control, which is the S2 dip switch 2, this just tells you and if it's in the on position. Okay, once again, we're not supposed to mess with this. This is the S2 dip switch, not the S1. But just so you know, if it's turned off, it's enabled. If I've turned it on, it's been disabled. This is what you need to know. When activated, this control promotes harvest of the ice on the evaporator that is hard to remove. If the harvest cycle exceeds 6 minutes, the pump motor starts to operate for a maximum of 3 minutes. Okay, harvest time. This is the S2 dip switch. Once again, do not adjust. It comes factory reset, but just so that you know, you should be looking at it, okay? Harvest completion. Once again, this is S2 dip switch 4. This just tells you whether if it's off, it's disabled. If it's on, it's enabled. Okay. If it is deactivated on the KM81BAJ, which is our unit that we're talking about, when activated, the control determines whether ice remains on the evaporator at the end of the harvest cycle and beginning of the freeze cycle. If ice drops and activates the bin control switch in the last 10 seconds of the harvest, okay? You do not mess with any of these, but this is just so that you're able to look and know what you're looking at, okay? Once again, this is dip switch S2, number 5. If it's on, it's disabled. If it's off, it's disabled. If it's on, it's enabled, okay? But I can take my reading, which I should have 2.5 K ohms. If this thing is, it's got to be between 2.5 and 3.5 K ohms, and that's the harvest cycle. Okay. So overfreeze detection control. This is once again S2 dip switch. We do not mess with these. We leave these alone. But do not adjust. This must be left in the factory default position. When activated, the thermistor detects the temperature of the evaporator outlet to find an overfreeze in the harvest cycle. That's what it does. Okay. The slush control, which is switch number 6. If it's disabled, it's off. Excuse me. If it's enabled, it's on. If it's turned on, it should read 3.9 K ohms. Okay. And then whenever it reaches 34 degrees Fahrenheit, 5.9 signal causes the control board to de-energize. Okay. So it's going to read 3.9 K ohms. Okay. Whenever the board reads, when the evaporator temperature sensor reaches 50 degrees. Okay. Whenever that's going to initiate the water pump and energize the water pump. When 34 degrees is reached, a 5.9 signal causes the control board to de-energize the pump motor. So if I have problems with my pump, I can go in and check this. Okay. This is this is my checklist that whenever I was going, once again, it says Manitowoc. It didn't matter. Mine were just, I had this and it did say Manitowoc, but I used it for every single one of them. So this is just my checklist that I wanted, but whenever I got done working on the ice machine, this is what I did. Is the ice machine level? Is the bin, is the ice machine and adapter secured to the dispenser? Okay. Have all the electrical and water connections been checked and made? Okay. Have the supply voltage been tested and checked against the rating on the nameplate? Is the proper clearance around the ice machine set for air circulation? Is the ice machine grounded and polarity correct? That is very important. Has the ice machine been installed where the ambient temperatures? That's kind of an irrelevant thing, but you still wanted to bring it up to the customer if it's not. Is the ice machine installed where incoming water temperature? You can't fix that. The only thing that you can do is adjust the time that it harvests. Is there a separate drain for the water cooled condenser? So if I have a water cooled unit, I need a separate drain. Okay, is a separate drain for the dispenser? Is the ice machine water turned on? Always got to have on, because if you already saw the thing, that's a problem. So yeah, you talk about the maintenance schedule. Has the owner operator completed the warranty registration? Has the ice machine bin, the ice machine and the bin been sanitized? Okay. Is the rocker turned to the on position so that I've got a normal cycle? Okay. Then this is, once again, these are just the checks that I used to do to make sure that everything was working properly. Once again, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it. I am going to ask if you have any questions. If you have any questions, let me know. Peter, did you get your question? As you said, okay. I'm assuming that whenever we got down to the next slide, you were able to see the abbreviations. Okay. Does anybody have any questions, guys and ladies? I don't know who we have today. So anybody that has any questions, please let me know. I'm going to wait about a minute, and then we're going to call it a day. We ran over just a touch, not very much, but I wanted to thank everybody for your participation and taking an hour out of your day to hopefully learn a little bit. Okay, I don't see anything else. I want to thank everybody again. Everybody have a wonderful day. Please be safe out there, because there are plenty of silly people out there running around. Everybody have a great day. We'll see you next time.